Welcome, creeps. You're listening to the Umbra Tapes, where we dive into unsolved mysteries, disturbing cases, and the downright weird. I'm Gabby.
And I'm Leah. Thanks for creeping in.
Every legend begins with a story. Some begin with truth, others begin with fear, and occasionally they begin with someone who understands the value of both. For more than 50 years, one husband and wife became synonymous with the supernatural. Their names appeared on best-selling books, television documentaries, newspaper headlines, and eventually one of the highest-grossing horror franchises ever created. To millions of people around the world, they were heroes, investigators who stepped into homes when everyone else walked away, people who claimed to battle demons, protect families, and lock away objects too dangerous for anyone else to possess. But history is rarely that simple. Tonight, we're not investigating a haunted house. We're investigating two people who built an empire from them. This is the story of Ed and Lorraine Warren. This is going to be a two-part series on the Warrens because their history is extremely vast and we're literally going from their adolescence into their death. Stick with us. Before I even talk about the Warrens, I want to kind of get your feel of what you think about them or what you know.
Okay, so I love all the Conjuring movies. I think that they are they're the highest grossing horror franchise for a reason.
Yes.
Or one of them anyways. And I think that they're obviously based on true stories, but they're not true in themselves. Those things were well played up for movies and whatnot. But I have looked into the different cases and things like that behind the movies and things. And I am a fan of them. I'm a fan of them. And I think that they paved the way for a lot of the stuff that we're into and that we like. And I mean, demonology and exorcisms and all these things that we know of, and how they are today, it's because of them.
Okay.
So
I just want to get your feel on it because throughout the duration of this, the story is going to unfold and it's not the story that's been told.
Okay.
Their life is highly glamorized, it's sensationalized, and a lot of times it's not exactly what you think.
Okay, yeah.
So, interested in them as well, and I did enjoy The Conjuring 1, kind of into The Conjuring 2, and everything else after that was kind of just meh to me. We went to the movie to see The Nun, and it was awful in my humble opinion.
I think, yeah, when they got into the Nun and those spin-offs for that, yeah. It kind of lost its appeal because they're just trying to
do too much.
Suck every last dollar out of these movies they can get, and then it just makes it unenjoyable. So
yes.
Yeah.
I didn't like the first Annabelle, but the second one, the creation, the origin story of her was, I think, a lot better than the first one that they did. That was just a ripoff of Rosemary's Baby. But yeah, like I said, I was a fan.
Yeah.
My opinions have changed after doing this research.
Okay.
And maybe yours
That's
will
interesting.
too.
Yeah, they might. I don't know. We'll
At
see.
the end of this two-part series, I'm going to ask you the same question that I did.
Okay.
And we'll see if your answer has changed.
Okay.
Edward Warren Miney was born on September 7th, 1926, in Bridgeport, Connecticut. His father was exactly what you would expect from a police officer of the era. Practical, disciplined, deeply religious, and completely unimpressed by stories about ghosts. Ironically, the place that would shape Ed's entire life wasn't a church, it wasn't school, it wasn't even a cemetery. According to Ed himself, it was his childhood home. Years later, Ed would describe the house as an ordinary New England residence where his family lived throughout the 1930s. But inside those walls, he claimed almost nothing was ordinary. From the ages of 5 to 12, Ed insisted that the house was plagued by unexplained activity. At night, he would lie awake listening to the heavy wooden closet door slowly creak open on its own. He described seeing a pale mist forming inside the closet, followed by a face of an elderly woman emerging from the darkness. Footsteps echoed through the empty rooms. The temperature would suddenly drop. The house itself seemed alive. Terrified, Ed would run to his father. The response was always the same. There is logical explanation for everything. Maybe the wind was rattling the pipes. Maybe the house was settling. Maybe an old building simply made old noises. His father refused to entertain anything supernatural. His mother responded very differently. A devout Roman Catholic, she didn't dismiss what her son believed he was experiencing. Instead, she fought with faith. She placed crucifixes around his bedroom. Rosary beads hung by his bedposts. Holy water sat nearby. Whether she believed the house was haunted or simply wanted to comfort a frightened child is impossible to know. But for Ed, those moments planted an idea that would follow him for the rest of his life. If evil was real, then perhaps the tools used against it were real as well. These experiences, whether paranormal, psychological, or simply vivid fears of childhood, profoundly affected him. Ed later admitted that there were days he refused to remain inside the house by himself. He would sit outside for hours, sometimes in pouring rain, sometimes in snow, waiting for someone else to come home before he dared to walk back inside. Then, something changed. As he entered adolescence, Ed described reoccurring dreams unlike the nightmares that haunted his childhood. A nun appeared to him. She never threatened him, she never frightened him, she simply spoke. When he eventually described her face to his family, his father reportedly recognized her immediately. According to Ed, she matched the appearance of his late aunt, a nun who had died before he was ever born. The message she delivered would become one of the defining moments of his life. She told him that one day he would help priests, but would never become one himself. Whether listeners interpret that story as divine intervention, coincidence, or a memory shaped over decades, for Ed Warren it became purpose. He no longer believed the unseen world contained only darkness. There could also be something watching over him. That belief transformed fear into conviction, and conviction would eventually become a career.
That's really interesting, though. And this is all like true?
Yes, this is the story that he has told over the years through many different interviews about his experience with the paranormal.
If it is true, that's really like interesting that the face that he saw was of his aunt, like according to his father.
Yeah,
but that's
like Roman Catholic imagery is pretty, I don't know, I think it's spooky in itself. Like a lot of times it's extremely beautiful, but it is weird.
But it
like,
is very,
spooky.
yes, it has that eerie feel to it because it's very spiritual, I think. A lot of it's a very spiritual aspect, and there's always those vibes going on.
I think maybe I'm just like, my thoughts on it are manipulated by the movie The Exorcist.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, they could be.
But the like how he goes to his father, and his father is just like, there's this reasonable explanation to these experiences. I'm like, if one day my son comes to me and he tells me that he's seeing a ghost woman in the closet, I'm afraid to say I would react probably similarly. Not because I didn't believe him, but because I would be terrified to believe him.
Yeah, I think that's a lot. Honestly, I think that's genuinely why a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
For that exact reason. Because they're scared to admit if there was something, they wouldn't even know what to do. They would be scared too.
Yeah.
And they have to be strong for their child who's coming to them scared.
Yeah,
so.
You gotta be like the bigger person, even though you're shitting bricks too.
Exactly, yeah. I'd be terrified. Mommy, I saw a ghost lady in the closet.
And I'm like, no, the fuck you didn't.
We're moving. Like, we're burning the house down. That's it. We're moving. Like, no.
It's funny though that like he had this vision of this nun, and in the Conjuring franchise, like the nun became like an integral part to the series.
That's what I was thinking in my head.
Which is funny though, because they made her out to be like this evil entity. Maybe she wasn't always.
She was.
Yeah. But
she was a demon.
Yeah,
the nun
that's
was
what
a
I'm
demon.
saying. So why did they make her evil if like his thoughts and opinions on nuns were like a good thing or like a pleasant experience?
Because it's for the franchise.
Okay,
I don't think it has anything to do with his. But maybe they did use his experience as a play on the movie to purposely kind of intertwine that with the series.
I don't remember the movie, but wasn't it like a nun was like taken over or possessed by a demon, and that's what created, what is her name?
No,
Valak?
I think Valak is the demon.
Okay.
Like that nun never existed. She just it just
like manifested.
Yes, manifested as a nun. Yes.
I don't remember that movie. It was so bad. I tuned out after like 20 minutes.
I did. The only thing that I genuinely really liked about those movies was at the end. The only way to put the demon back in hell, or like in the portal, the crack that it came through hell, through this monastery, was to find the blood of Christ and like they basically at the end, spoiler alert if you never watched it, they spit the blood in its face of Christ in his face.
Oh.
And that's how it gets sucked back into the demon hole.
Was it in like that ball thing?
Yeah, well, it's
that?
in like a I believe it's in like a little necklace, like a vial of his blood, but the blood was in the ball.
In the ball, okay.
Yes. So
I
they
remember
like
the ball.
cracked the ball, and then the necklace was in it, and she like put the necklace in her mouth, and then when he like tried to drown her, she came up and was like
spat it in her face.
Yes, and like spat it in his face. And but the reason I like that is because it brings Jesus and God into these things in a very real way. Normally you just see the devil, demons, like entities, and there's never any way to like genuinely stop it besides doing it. But this was the physical like blood of Christ. That was the only way. That's how powerful it is.
Like, was
that's
no
the
longer
only
a metaphor.
Yes. And like I just thought that was cool because you really don't see that a lot in like these types of movies. Like they just do an exorcism or they hold a cross up.
Yeah.
It was cool. That was cool.
The iconography of it is very powerful.
Yes.
I mean, I'll give it that.
That's what it is. It was just a very powerful thing. Like they weren't just trying to like exorcise it like every other movie on the planet does. Like it was
that is a very unique take. So I give them that.
Exactly.
I give them that.
That's why I like
I really like James Wan. So, I get it.
Me too. Yeah.
If Ed Warren believed the supernatural announced itself through shadows, Lorraine Warren believed it revealed itself through light. Lorraine Rita Moran was born on January 31st, 1927. Just a few miles away in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Like Ed, she was raised in a strict Roman Catholic household where faith shaped nearly every aspect of daily life. But unlike Ed, Lorraine's experiences weren't something that happened to her. They were simply how she perceived the world. According to Lorraine, by age 7, she began noticing that every person she encountered was surrounded by a faint field of colored light. She later described these glowing outlines as vibrant, constantly shifting halos that reflected a person's emotional and spiritual condition. To Lorraine, there was nothing unusual about them. She assumed everyone saw them. The realization that she was different came during a seemingly ordinary afternoon at Lorton Hall, a private Catholic girls' school she attended. One day she looked at one of the sisters teaching her class and noticed something she couldn't ignore. The nun's aura was brilliant, far brighter than anyone else's. Innocently, Lorraine walked over and remarked, "Sister, your lights are brighter than Mother Superior's." It wasn't received as innocent curiosity. The nun immediately scolded her. She insisted Lorraine was making things up. In the religious climate of the 1930s, claims of seeing light surrounding people weren't viewed as spiritual gifts. They were viewed as intention-seeking, or worse, evidence that something might be psychologically wrong. When Lorraine told her mother what happened, the reaction was no less alarming. Fearing her daughter might be labeled as unstable or institutionalized in an era when mental illness was poorly understood, her mother gave her a single instruction: never speak of it again. And Lorraine obeyed. She buried what she claimed to experience. She stopped talking about the lights, stopped asking questions, stopped letting anyone know what she believed she could see. Unlike Ed, who openly wrestled with terrifying experiences throughout childhood, Lorraine learned to carry hers in complete silence. Two children living in the same Connecticut city, raised in the same religious tradition, both convinced the unseen world was real, yet each believing that they were completely alone. Neither of them could have imagined that their paths were about to cross. I've heard of people like seeing auras, but I always thought it was like a metaphor. You know, like, oh, like you're such like a bright, bubbly person, like your color is yellow, like, you know, or something like that, or you're big mad, like your aura is red.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it was like literal, but I guess it is.
Me neither. Yeah, that's very unique though. I don't know. If I believe that, then I don't know if I
want to know
it.
who these people are, and so I can be like, what's my color today?
Yeah.
Just to, like, test them, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, that goes into like she's claimed to be a medium.
Yeah.
So I think it intertwines with that situation. But I do completely agree that like some people are a lot more in tune to other people's emotions and their auras and all those things, where some people just not even a little bit are in tune.
Maybe they are just like so in tune that like it manifests as like visually seeing a color. Which I guess I could see that. I mean,
it's not a
the
common
brain does
thing.
crazy things.
It's not a common thing for these things to happen. So it could very well be.
There's lots of people that claim that they can see auras. I mean, I don't know
like
how
her,
true
though?
it is.
Like that bright, like that. Like
yeah, that people claim they can.
Vivid.
They have the same gift that Lorraine Warren does. There was a whole get up about it, about like aligning your chakras and finding your, like, I don't know.
Yeah, but she had it without doing all that.
No.
So you know what I mean? Like, I feel like she would have been more believable.
I wish I could like ask her mother, like, did she say she had this thing like back in the day when she was 8 years old? Because, you know, like, is it true?
Yeah, I'd be curious to know.
I want like a secondary outside of Ed, because it's his wife. Like, I want a secondary or a third party to tell me exactly what the experience was.
Yeah, but she, and that's the thing too, when you have those sorts of gifts, like she was able to kind of control it in a way where like some people, they get scared and they just try to suppress it, but she didn't. She tried to use it for good and for a good purpose and try to control it and make it become one with this gift that she had.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of sad that her parents were like, no, don't talk about it, because I mean, if they were like, oh, my child is super unique, this is a gift that they have. Not saying that they should like flaunt it around to the world, because that could be pretty unsettling to people at the time. But if you like encouraged it, I'm sure it could be beneficial to your life. Like,
I think at that point though, they were probably just protecting her because they didn't want the nuns to
it's understandable.
shun her, whatever the case might have been. But yeah,
I totally get it. In 1943, America was at war. The outcome of World War II was still uncertain. Young men were preparing to enlist. Families listened to updates on the radio each evening. And in downtown Bridgeport, 16-year-old Ed Warren had taken a job as an usher at the Colonial Theater. One evening, a young girl entered the theater with her mother. Her name was Lorraine Warren. Ed escorted them to their seats. That was all it took. Years later, both of them describe it as love at first sight. From that night forward, they were rarely apart. On the surface, they couldn't have been more different. Ed was outgoing, loud, opinionated, a gifted storyteller who seemed capable of turning every conversation into a performance. Lorraine was reserved, soft-spoken, deeply compassionate. She preferred listening to speaking and had an almost effortless calm about her. Friends often described them as opposites, yet beneath those personalities was something they had never found in anyone else. Someone who believed them. During one of their early walks together through Bridgeport, Ed finally told Lorraine about the experiences he had that haunted him since childhood. The footsteps, the mist, the face in the closet. He expected skepticism. Instead, Lorraine quietly revealed the secret she had hidden for nearly a decade. She told Ed she could see light surrounding people. She expected him to laugh. He never did. For perhaps the first time in either of their lives, they found someone who didn't ask them to stay silent. That moment became the foundation of everything that followed, not simply a romance, but a partnership built around a shared belief that the unseen world was real. Years later, critics would argue that Ed validated Lorraine's claims because they strengthened his own worldview. Supporters would argue the opposite, that they finally found someone who understood experiences neither of them could explain. Whatever the truth, their relationship was forged around that mutual belief, and that belief would soon be tested, because history was about to interrupt their lives. As World War II intensified, 18-year-old Ed Warren enlisted in the United States Navy. Almost overnight, their teenage romance became a long-distance relationship, sustained nearly on handwritten letters. Then came the telegram every family feared. During the war, Ed's ship was struck and sunk in the frigid waters of the North Atlantic. He survived, but many others did not. The experience left him deeply shaken. The Navy granted him 30 days of survivor leave to return home. Ed didn't spend those precious weeks resting. He married Lorraine. There would be no elaborate ceremony, no years-long engagement, no certainty that another opportunity would ever come. In 1945, surrounded by family and overshadowed by a world at war, Ed and Lorraine Warren became husband and wife. The following year, they welcomed their only child, a daughter named Judy. The war had ended, and their lives were just beginning.
It's so cute.
I'm really happy that they did find each other. Like,
Me
every person
too.
needs like
That's
that
like
solace.
1 in a million chance, I feel like. It's like you just have to find the right person.
No,
And they did.
Yeah, that absolutely is like a 1 in a million chance. I mean, you think nowadays, and we have these like eclectic spaces, or we have these places for
these types of people to meet. Yes.
But then, I mean, you know, your local watering hole was like the soda shop or the movie theater. So like to meet somebody who held not the same beliefs, but also had strange experiences is I would say unique.
And didn't laugh at you and believed you. And that in itself is like a whole like eye-opening experience. Like, wow, somebody believes me. Like somebody understands me. And
it's also crazy though that they actually took that experience and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to get another chance to marry you, and I absolutely want to marry you. So I'm going to do it before like I quite possibly could lose my life.
So sweet.
It is very sad, and it's a very sweet romantical story.
It is. It's so weird because it really is. Like, it's like the one aspect of it is like this perfect marriage, like this sweet relationship. Their only daughter who they gave like everything that they had to. And then like their lives, the other side of their lives was just like fighting demons.
Yes.
Like, it's kind of crazy, you know?
I mean, their relationship was literally forged from like the spiritual. So like I get it that they went that direction.
Yeah, I guess I just mean like in their not their real lives, but you know what I mean, like home and work life. Yes. I guess it's just like kind of,
I guess they do kind of separate the two. Like millions of returning servicemen around World War II, Ed Warren faced a question that countless young veterans struggled to answer. What comes next? He had survived the war, he had a wife and a newborn daughter. Now he needed a way to provide for them. Ed enrolled at the Perry Art School in Connecticut, hoping to turn the talent he'd developed since childhood into a career. The classroom wasn't for him. He had little patience for formal instruction and even less interest in spending years earning a degree. Before long, he left school and decided to make a living on his own terms. For much of the late 1940s and early 1950s, the Warrens lived a life that, by most standards, was anything but glamorous. They packed their young daughter into the back of their Chevy and drove across New England, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. Small towns filled with covered bridges, rolling farmland, white church steeples, and centuries-old homes. Ed painted landscapes, historic buildings, mountain vistas, anything tourists might purchase as a souvenir. Meanwhile, Lorraine handled the business. She balanced the books, spoke to customers, and sold paintings from roadside stands and local fairs. Some weeks, they made enough money to cover food, fuel, and a motel room. Other weeks, they barely scraped by. But hidden inside those road trips, another obsession was quietly growing. Every town has its stories. The abandoned farmhouse people refuse to enter. The old inn where footsteps echo through the empty halls. The colonial home everyone insists is haunted. Most travelers hear those stories and keep on driving. Ed Warren did the exact opposite. Whenever locals mentioned a haunted house, he steered the car towards it. What happened next would become one of the most famous and arguably the most effective networking strategies of his career. Ed would sit on a sidewalk across from the house, open his paint box, and begin creating a painting of the property. Hours later, painting complete, he walked to the front door and offered it to the homeowner, free of charge. For most families, it was an unexpected act of kindness. People invited him inside, they thanked him, conversation naturally followed. Only then would Ed casually mention why he had come. I hear your house has quite a reputation. Would you mind telling me about it? Or perhaps, would you mind if my wife and I took a look around? It was disarmingly simple. Whether intentional or instinctive, the strategy worked remarkably well. Families talked and stories accumulated. And before long, Ed and Lorraine had investigated dozens of homes across New England, trying to answer a question that had followed them since childhood. It's actually kind of wild to think that they were living this like very new age kind of lifestyle, like you know what I'm talking about, like the traveling hippies.
Yes,
like this,
yeah.
This
I was gonna say
nomadic
like,
type.
What a life! Like that's like the life, you know. That's a perfect situation. I feel
it's just
not that
strange,
they didn't have
though,
money,
because usually like that type of like new age traveling and
back then,
like,
anyways, because it
and,
wasn't
like stuff like that. It's
easy.
usually adopted by like hippies
Mhm.
and not like these deeply religious, devout people. I feel like it's not a space that you usually hear like religious people traveling in unless it's like a cult, like you know what I mean?
But I also think maybe like they let their like fantasy like world kind of get the better of them and let that kind of guide them through a lot of this stuff. Like
interesting.
They didn't like succumb to the religious. I mean, they did, but not in that way.
Yeah.
Part of their lives, they didn't succumb to that really, and they kind of did their own thing, and they branched off and they took risks, and it turned out really well for them.
It was very unique for the people of the time, especially like, I mean, nowadays you're like, you see a family and a dog and 3 kids, whatever, all packed into a van, and they're traveling the country for like van life, and that's just like a normal thing now.
Yeah.
If you think about something back then, usually it didn't.
No, because again, I think transportation in itself wasn't very accommodating to that.
Yeah.
Like they could barely find a motel room because they didn't have any money. I mean, seems like it was very trivial to them to be able to do like
they wanted to do
this.
Yeah.
Yes, but they did it, and it was not easy.
Can you imagine having like a newborn baby and like a camper, one thing, a cool van, another thing, but like in the back of your Chevy traveling around.
God, no.
You're
hell
I guess,
no.
traveling around New England.
Other than that,
not
that's
knowing
the life,
where you were
though.
gonna lay your head that day.
Yeah,
it's wild.
I would just be along for the ride, though. I would have been love to be like a fly on the wall in their car. Just like, just take me with you.
I mean, I definitely had dreams like after high school, like van lifing and going out and just like exploring the country, but
well, just even where they went, like the New England type of area, it's just so
old. It's beautiful.
Beautiful. Like I want to breathe the air there. Just want to look and breathe their
air. You went to
Massachusetts?
Yeah. It's so expensive.
It is.
And Salem is a crock now. Like if you're gonna go to Salem, go off season, and if you are gonna go off season, just like know you're falling into multiple tourist traps.
Yeah, but it's fun.
It is
like
fun.
If you know you're getting into it. It's cool. It is cool because that's like the one place that it's like Halloween all year round. If you're into that, that's your place. You know, there's like no other places that are really like that. I mean, maybe a few, but not like Salem.
No. And I think that's part of the problem. If it like stayed like or remained this like quaint little like whispered.
Yeah, they play into it so hard.
It's
they
huge
love
now.
Oh, they love when
I mean, I went like 11 years ago, and my experience was totally different than yours, and you just went what, like 3 years ago? Yeah. And my experience was so much different than yours. Like we went for like Haunted Happening like right at the beginning of October, and it was wild, but you could still breathe. It was accommodating, but now I hear the streets are like packed.
It wasn't terrible when we went. I mean, there was like times of the day that it got real busy, but other than that, like the only bad experience I think that we had was the drivers in Massachusetts are fucking terrible. They think New York's bad? No. And the bathroom.
Oh
in the
God,
mall.
We're not talking about that. Do you want to talk? You can talk about the bathroom if you want to talk about the bathroom.
If you could just picture the worst place you could ever use the bathroom in your life, yes, and the smell, the stuff on the floor, the stuff on the walls.
Rotting corpses.
Disgusting. Do not go.
Now that we've given our travel advice.
Salem was really cool though. They had so much fun stuff you could do. Like it was like a never-ending pile of fun shit that you could do. So
I really enjoyed camping there.
Yeah. And if you get to go.
Yeah.
You can't not have fun there unless you use the mall bathroom.
Don't use the mall bathroom. In 1952, those scattered investigations became something far more organized. Ed and Lorraine formally established the New England Society for Psychic Research, commonly known as NESPR. Its stated vision was straightforward: to investigate claims of hauntings, apparitions, poltergeist activity, and other unexplained phenomena. The organization would eventually claim to have investigated more than 10,000 cases over the course of its existence. That number has never been independently verified. Many early case files remain unpublished, undocumented, and inaccessible to researchers. Still, throughout the 1950s and the early 1960s, the Warrens steadily built a regional reputation through word of mouth. A family would tell a priest might mention the Warrens, a newspaper would occasionally print a story, and then another family would call. Case by case, their reputation spread. What's often forgotten today is that the early Warrens operated very differently than the version most people recognize them from film. Their goal wasn't to cast out demons initially. For the first decade or so, they functioned primarily as investigators. They entered homes, interviewed witnesses, documented unusual claims, collected photographs and recordings whenever possible, then they left. They saw themselves as less spiritual warriors and more as researchers attempting to demonstrate that hauntings genuinely existed. That philosophy would remain largely unchanged until the mid-1960s. Then came a case Ed Warren later described as one of the most important turning points of his life. According to Ed, he and Lorraine were called to investigate a home plagued by unexplained activity. During their visit, they worked alongside a trance medium who claimed to establish contact with a spirit haunting the residents. The voice that reportedly emerged wasn't threatening. It belonged to a little girl. She identified herself as Cynthia. According to those present, the child seemed confused. She cried continuously. She wandered through the house searching for her mother, unable to understand that she had already died. Whether listeners accept that account as genuine paranormal communication or a product of mediumship is a matter of personal belief. But Ed later insisted that the existence changed his life forever. Until then, he believed investigating hauntings was enough. Now he believed investigation alone accomplished nothing. If spirits truly existed, and if they were suffering, then documenting them wasn't helping anyone. The Warrens began reaching a conclusion that would redefine their careers. If they intended to do more than observe, they would need spiritual authority. And for Ed Warren, there was only one institution he believed possessed it: the Roman Catholic Church. That decision would forever change the direction of NESPR. They were so, it obviously started as a super noble cause.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes. So I guess that's really neat though, because I know if you go to a priest and you want to perform an exorcism, you need permission to do that.
Get into this.
Yes, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong in a little bit, I believe Ed was one of the only people that they've ever given permission outside of the Catholic Church to be able to do that, which is really cool because they don't have time for this shit. I feel like he's got all the time to be go to these places and investigate and so on and so forth with all his resources that he has. But the Roman Catholic Church is very strict about that stuff.
They absolutely are.
And so it's very very unique in their situation. And
well, girl, I am absolutely about to prove you wrong.
Oh no.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, prove me wrong.
For decades, one sentence followed Ed Warren everywhere he went. It appeared in newspaper articles, television interviews, book jackets, documentaries, and even it found its way into Hollywood. Ed Warren was the only non-clergyman demonologist recognized by the Catholic Church. It's one of the most repeated statements in paranormal history. It's also one of the most misunderstood. To understand why, we first need to understand how the Catholic Church actually approaches claims of demonic activity. Despite what horror films often portray, the Church does not rush in to declare a haunting or perform an exorcism. In fact, it does the opposite. When someone reports what they believe to be demonic oppression or possession, the Church begins an exhaustive process of elimination. Medical examinations, psychological evaluations, interviews with family members, consultations with physicians. Only after every reasonable, natural explanation has been explored will a bishop even consider authorizing a formal exorcism. And even then, that authority belongs exclusively to a priest specifically appointed by his bishop. Not every priest can perform an exorcism, and certainly not a civilian. There is another detail often overlooked within the Catholic canon law. There is no official office or certification known as a lay demonologist. Anyone can describe themselves as a demonologist. It is not an ordained position. It is not a Vatican title. The Catholic Church has repeatedly clarified that it never granted Ed Warren an official institution position as a recognized demonologist. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Warrens never worked alongside priests. They absolutely did. Throughout their careers, they developed relationships with individual clergy members willing to investigate reports of alleged paranormal activity. Some priests believed the Warrens were sincere. Others remained skeptical. Several accompanied them into homes. Others refused entirely. Like any large institution, there was never a unanimous opinion. And that's where the story becomes far more complicated than either side often admits.
Okay, so he was never actually given permission, even though he basically... What that just told me is, yeah, he can just do it if he wants to, but he was never explicitly given permission to do it.
So I do recall in the Conjuring movie that was like a thing. Like they talked about it and it was like, oh, he cannot perform an exorcism. And he tried to reach out to the Catholic Church and they kept saying no. And he's like, well, fuck it. I got to do it myself. And very noble cause to like want to put yourself in the crossfires there. And I don't fault him for doing it. My problem is the sensationalization of it, saying, I am the only one who has been ordained by the Roman Catholic Church to be a demonologist.
Which he wasn't.
No, that's my point. Exactly.
It seems like eventually, like once this all started like kicking off and they became famous and they were on TV all the... They're going to like play into every little thing. Just it's marketing. That's what it is. It's just marketing. So
and, I mean, it was even stated in like the first part of this, like Ed Warren was like a showman. He was all about the hype, the show. He could turn everything into like a story. So
they were like the media's like dream team, like at this point in time.
In terms of the paranormal,
yeah, because like they were willing to probably play into all this stuff and not say what they wanted him to say, but kind of play into the tales and whatnot that make him seem like he was more interesting. And
so whatever. This is just like if we're doing like an iceberg category, right? You know what icebergs are in like the level 1, level 2 when they go down like deeper. This is just the tip of the iceberg with the Warrens. What I find, and I've watched multiple interviews of him speaking, he is a super pious man. Clearly, like everything he talks about is like God. But like he tends to like talk out his ass.
Okay.
And that's not a very godly thing. So I just don't,
Like lie?
Yeah. He explicitly lies rather often, especially in these interviews.
Well, again, that's why I was trying to say, like, I think it's marketing at a certain point. Like, he knows he's lying. He's clearly, when you're lying, like, when you're lying.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, isn't that like one of the 7 deadly sins is like greed?
Greed?
Is it?
Yes.
But that's what I'm saying. So the second he started realizing like, oh, this is marketable, I can make a lot of money off of this. Like he fell into like one of the 7 deadly sins. And I'm sure that's not the only one he fell into either.
Yeah. Probably not. Probably not. He's a man. Yeah. I can only imagine all the things he fell into.
Oh, yeah. There's lots of speculated things that I'm not even talking about in this because it is too speculative and
too conspiracy. Yeah.
For me to even dive into. I'm more about like the facts and giving you
because there's enough facts sides. in this whole story.
We don't need to mud it up.
Yeah.
Ed and Lorraine Warren understood something long before social media, long before podcasts, and decades before the internet. Authority matters. If a local ghost hunter tells you your house is haunted, you might dismiss it. Someone standing beside a priest tells you the same thing. People listen. Whether intentionally or not, the Warrens increasingly became associated with the Catholic imagery. Their investigations began looking less like paranormal research and more like spiritual warfare. It was a dramatic transformation. During the first decade of NESPR, the Warrens primarily documented hauntings. Now, they presented themselves as people capable of helping families survive them. That distinction made all the difference. Television producers loved it. Newspapers loved it. The audience loved it. Because proving ghosts exist is interesting. Battling demons is unforgettable. That growing reputation wasn't universally welcomed. Many members of the Catholic clergy became increasingly uncomfortable with how public the Warrens made their investigations. The church traditionally handles potential possession cases with extraordinary confidentiality. Families are protected, names are often withheld, medical records remain private, publicity is discouraged. The Warrens operated completely differently. If a case generated enough attention, it often became part of their college lecture circuit. Eventually, books followed, then documentaries, TV appearances, and years later, even Hollywood adaptations. Critics within the church began accusing the Warrens of turning deeply personal tragedies into public spectacle. Some clergy worried that genuine mental illness was being mistaken for demonic influence. Others argued the opposite, that dismissing every report outright ignored centuries of theological tradition. The debate wasn't simply about ghosts, it was about responsibility. Where does ministry end and entertainment begin? One of the most vocal critics was Francis Vergelach, a former Catholic priest and experienced exorcist from Connecticut. Speaking publicly in the 1980s, Francis admitted he struggled to decide whether the Warrens were sincere people who genuinely believed what they were doing, or talented showmen who had discovered that fear attracted enormous audiences. The answer depended almost entirely on whether you believed the Warrens' investigations represented evidence or performance. The divide grew even wider after the Warrens began frequently working alongside Robert McKenna. McKenna had once been a Catholic priest. However, during the 1970s, he broke away from the Roman Catholic Church and joined a traditionalist movement that rejected the authority of the modern Vatican. Eventually, he was consecrated as a bishop outside the official structure of the Catholic Church. Despite this, the Warrens often introduced him publicly as a Catholic authority during investigations involving alleged demonic activity. To supporters, Bishop McKenna was a courageous man willing to confront evil where others refused. To many within the institutional church, he represented someone operating entirely outside its authority. The distinction mattered, but for television audiences, it often disappeared completely. The image remained the same: a priest. Ed and Lorraine Warren were standing in the middle of it all. Whether officially endorsed or not, their public image had become inseparable from the Catholic ritual. It was branding, powerful branding. And soon, that image would be attached to a case that transformed the Warrens from respected regional investigators into international celebrities. Ironically, it didn't begin with an ancient relic, or a cursed monastery, or an abandoned castle. It began with a department store Raggedy Ann doll.
Annabelle!
Yeah, the story everybody knows and loves and cherishes. But I am deeply confused about the Catholic Church. The levels of it is crazy. Bishop, Pope, Colonel, Cardinal, whatever the fuck they are.
Yeah. Well, the Pope is the top guy.
I know he's the top dog.
Yeah.
He's the top dog.
But the Vatican, I always go back to that too, because the Vatican's in Italy. Yes. Obviously, it's not here. But every Roman Catholic religion branches out from the Vatican. So there's just so many all around the world, and it's crazy.
How do you feel about this McKenna that they present as their Catholic priest?
He's a showman too. I think he's a showman too, because only that type of person would be involved in this. If he had genuine intentions and was genuinely trying to help these people, he wouldn't have done it in this way.
No,
he would have done it in a private investigator type of way, not this showy.
Exactly.
That's ridiculous.
Where my respect starts to fall away from it. But
it's hard for them to be believable when they're thought of as a celebrity.
That's my problem.
Yeah, because now it's you're falling prey to the bullshit that Hollywood and all these things come from. That it's not, you're not in it for this anymore. You're in it to make a show.
So in this one, we're not going to talk about any of the cases. We're just introducing them, telling you what their bag is, how they go about these things.
No, that's good to know, because I didn't know a lot of this.
Okay, because that's what I'm doing. I'm laying down the groundwork for many of the cases that you actually already know of, like Warren's involvement in them. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about the back door.
Okay.
What happens behind these cases. It's just funny though that they do claim to have this relationship with the Catholic Church, because usually we especially in the horror community, you see a priest and you're like, okay, dude, they're capable of handling an exorcism. And
you would think
maybe that's because, Hollywood has
Put that into our
make it a
heads,
trope.
yes. Mm-hmm.
I think Catholic priest and I think exorcism, and I just immediately think of William P. Blatty's movie. Like you're performing an exorcism, and that's you can do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, but apparently there's levels to this.
Yeah, I think I kind of knew that, and honestly, a little bit from The Conjuring itself, because that was kind of how Ed came into not being able to do them, but doing them.
Yeah,
without the permission, because he kind of couldn't get the permission.
That's what I was gonna say.
So,
I kind of give a little bit of grace to The Conjuring because, especially the first one, they didn't like outright lie. They didn't say like, I'm performing this exorcism, I'm sanctioned to do it. He straight up was like, no, I don't have the right to do it, but
I'm here to help you.
Shove, I gotta do it. You know, I've gotta try. Which
I guess, why does it matter? Now that I really think about it, why do you need permission from the Catholic Church to do an exorcism?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Maybe
it's like,
doesn't
if
really
your spirit
matter,
is strong enough to be able to do that, and why does the church need to have dominion on that?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Maybe they like...
They copyrighted exorcisms?
No. I think maybe like they need to know like what demons are like out in the world or something.
How do you know what
they need to like identify it. They need to like document it. Yeah, you know, maybe. I mean, because there's a massive catalog of like in actual demonology, there's a massive catalog of demons that exists.
Mm-hmm.
And like they have names, and I mean, we've seen a lot of them in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But some of these names are like really strange and obscure, and these demons in their like literal form are like heads upon heads and legs going different ways. And I don't know, that's just how they're presented in like demonology folklore, I guess you could say. I really don't know what gives them the authority to do it.
Besides, like, they're closest with God in whatever way.
I guess that's the only way I can rationalize it, too. By the mid-1960s, Ed and Lorraine Warren had built something remarkable. They had a growing reputation, connections to clergy, thousands of investigations behind them, and a public image unlike anyone else's in America. But outside of New England, almost nobody knew their names, and that was about to change. Because in 1970, a nursing student received an ordinary Raggedy Ann doll for her birthday. Within a matter of weeks, Ed and Lorraine Warren would claim that toy was haunted by a spirit of a little girl, but manipulated by something far older, something inhuman. It would become the most famous doll in the world. It would launch books, lecture tours, documentaries, and even a billion-dollar horror franchise. But that story is for the next tape.
Okay, guys, and that was today's episode. Make sure you stay tuned next week for part 2, where we dive into some of the Warrens' most famous cases. Don't forget to submit your Shadow Sessions listener stories. If you have any spooky stories that you guys want to tell us, please submit them through the form at the link in our bio. And if you would like your small business featured, we would love to feature your small business. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.